want to now share my story with you. I grew up in India. I spent the first 23 years of my life in India. And I had a very normal, happy childhood, and all my limbs were intact. I had, a pretty good time at school. I was moderately talented. I was a bit of a teacher's pet. And I grew up feeling reasonably optimistic about my life because my parents led me to believe that I could achieve anything I wanted as long as I worked hard. At the age of 23, when I had just graduated from one of India's top business schools, I decided to take a road less traveled, as they say. So all my fellow graduates were all going through job interviews on campus because they wanted to get on to the first rung of that career ladder. And I decided I wasn't going to do that because my father was in the Indian Navy and he was here in London as a naval attaché in the Indian High Commission. So I had a very rare opportunity to travel to England on a diplomatic passport with all the benefits that come with it, including an invitation to Buckingham Palace. So I thought, you know what, this sounds amazing. I'm not going to get another chance like this, so forget the career. I'm going to go to England. And maybe, because I'm so amazing, I'll get a job there. This was pre-internet, by the way. This was 1991. So I had no way of researching my theory before launching into it. So I came here, and for those of you who remember 91, maybe most of you are too young, it was one of UK's worst recessions, and even British graduates could not get jobs. So little old me had really no chance. So I stayed for 6 months, and over the 6 months, this kind of pot of self-belief that I had brimming when I first came to London, with every setback and rejection letter, it was like having holes poked into it, and self-belief was just leaking out on a daily basis. And I started to think, oh my God, I'm 24 and my life is over, because what am I going to go back to India? I've got nothing to show on my CV. I've had a little bit of travel, but no job, so what am I going to do? And then, like that sliding door moment, have you seen the movie Sliding Door? Yeah, sliding doors. Sliding door moment, I came across this gentleman at a social event, and he said, my company's hiring. Would you like to apply for a job? I said, yes. I didn't even care what the job was. At that point, I would have done anything. And so I applied for this job, and it was actually working as a commission-only insurance salesperson. I thought, that's fine, I'm good at selling. I thought I was a natural-born seller. So I went into this job feeling really quite excited that finally I had something to get up to in the morning. And then I realized it was actually really hard because I had to cold call people, and people would just hang up on me as soon as they heard my Indian accent, because in those days I still had my accent. But I thought, you know what, this is good, because at least I have something to wake up to every morning. I have a reason to get up in the morning and go into work and learn some things. I kind of treated this job as a grand character building exercise. So every rejection was like, it's okay, it's just character building, it's going to make me more resilient. When I go back to India, I'm going to have stories to tell. And then I had my second sliding door moment. A second stranger who came into my life and changed everything. So up until that point, I had a plan B, you see. I thought, this is not working. I was very hardworking, and I did all my cold calls, and I did my best. I studied all the products with excruciating detail, and I understood their features, but I did not understand their benefits. Really, because I had not lived long enough in this country. I had no life experience. I could not relate to most of the people I was trying to sell insurance to. So it's no wonder that nobody wanted to buy from me. But I thought, this is good because I'm learning. And my plan B was that I would, in about 6 months' time, I would go back to India, and then I would resume my career. And then a new manager came in to this firm. He was headhunted. And I got on really well with him. And he saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. He saw potential in me to do so much more. So he became, from my manager, he became my mentor. He started to teach me how to sell, how to really be confident, and all these things that I'd sort of almost forgotten. And then he also became my husband. So here we go. So now he was my husband. My plan B was not to be, because I could not go back to India now, because I had to live here. And suddenly it dawned on me that, oh my God, I hate selling insurance. I don't want to do it. but I actually don't know what I'm going to do next, because I'm not sure all the things that I actually studied and I thought I was good at are going to be of any use to me. Because the ecosystem is so different, and the rules of engagement are different. People don't understand what I'm capable of, or what I'm even worth. But my husband was this pillar of support. He was my personal champion. And every time I felt a bit low, he would say, "No, you can do this. Don't give up. You can do this." And actually, over the next 4 to 5 years, believe it or not, I just temped. I went to a temp agency because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I didn't want to get stuck in a permanent job that I hated. So I thought, instead of doing that, why don't I just put myself out there and just do whatever comes my way? Maybe somewhere along the way, I will discover what I'm really meant to do. So I did temp jobs, and at the low point, I was being paid £3 an hour. My daughter recently did a job at a pharmacy. She got paid more than I did. Of course, this was 25 years ago, so money has changed since. So I did temp jobs, and there were times when I felt really disheartened. It felt like this really long tunnel with no light at the end of it. And I just thought my whole life I was going to be doing these jobs where I was photocopying, doing data entry, or making cups of tea as a receptionist. I felt really ashamed to go back to my friends in India who were all in like super careers, riding up that career ladder. Because I thought, how am I going to explain to them that I came to London and now I make tea and I answer the phone? So I actually stopped getting in touch with them. I just shunned all social contact. But in the meantime, because my husband believed in me, I carried on learning every single job. I did it really well, and I thought, if I do this job really well, there'll be a slightly better one. And so I finally got my break in 1997, by which time I'd done certain professional qualifications, and I was actually qualified to go and work in investments. And I got my second proper break, I suppose, my first real career break. The first break was when I got that insurance job. When the person who interviewed me, despite my slightly strange CV with all these random jobs, he saw something in me, and he gave me my first break as an assistant portfolio manager. And I stayed with the same company for 18 years, bless you. For 18 years, I stayed with the same company, but doing different roles, different jobs. And I realized, actually, that the key to success is not necessarily the things that you are given, when you're studying or when you're a child, but it's the things that you look around and find and you make your own. Yes, I learned that creating your own niche, irrespective of the ecosystem you are in, is the key to you making your own breakthrough. And that's what I did. And it wasn't easy. There were many times when I was just frustrated because I thought I worked so hard. I think I'm really good at my job, I've got decent numbers, but they won't promote me. They would rather promote somebody who's, an Etonian or an old, that feeling that what do I need to do to get recognized? And I know that lots of people feel that way. But then I also realized, stop feeling sorry for yourself, because that's never going to work. Don't give excuses that, because I'm a woman, or because I'm not from here, because those things are not going to change. So why not look to see what it is that you can change and how you can make a difference? And so in the course of my 18 years, having gone from being an assistant portfolio manager, when I left this job that I once thought would be for life, because I loved it that much, I was looking after £2 billion of clients' assets. And I could never have imagined, when I was doing that £3 an hour job, I could never, ever have imagined that one day people would have me responsible for their money, and £2 billion of it. So anything is possible, but you just have to believe, and you have to make some small changes and constantly, believe in the compounding effect of small changes, which can have exponential results. So in 2014, you're thinking, so why did you leave? It was such an amazing job. Do you remember I told you about this jigsaw puzzle and the picture that we create? I think sometimes, you start to look at that picture and the picture just feels like it's changed. Like the picture that you had in mind, the one you created, because there's other influences, there's people, who are coming and influencing your picture. the picture of my life changed. You know, I didn't feel the same about my work anymore. I'd been doing that job as head of UK equities for 7 years, and I was starting to get a little bit stale in it. I thought, you know what, if I get stale in it, I'm not going to do a good job. I also had some things happening on my personal front at home, and I felt that that needed my attention. And so rather than most sensible people who actually go and find themselves another job and then leave, I thought, I love this job so much. I really like this company. I can't imagine doing the same job somewhere else. So I'm just going to leave, and then I'm going to figure it out. Now, I think to whose point was that about the financial security? So I didn't just throw in my job and then pray that I would not be homeless, because that's a little bit irresponsible, because I was the main breadwinner. I was the only breadwinner, and I have 2 children, and I had to make sure that their financial security was relatively taken care of. So I had a financial cushion because I was a partner as well. So I had enough money to give me a year, maybe 18 months, to figure out what I was going to do next. So I would say, if ever you're thinking, oh my God, I hate this, I want to do something else, please don't be irresponsible, because it takes time, especially if you want to really make a change and really, you know, allow yourself the opportunity to feel the flow of things and, you know, discover what you're really meant to do. It takes a bit of time. So I quit, and actually once I made that decision, it felt like the best decision ever. But it didn't solve the problem that I didn't actually know what I was going to do next, because that's all I'd ever done. And therefore, I was not sure I was equipped to do much more. So the first thing I did was in March 2015, I enrolled to become a hula hoop fitness teacher. Did that get any of your attention? If you were kind of flagging there, thinking the story is a bit boring. Yeah, so anyway, that's another whole story. I'm not going to tell you about that. But yes, I am trained to teach hula hoop. If you ever want a class and you want to learn a new way to get fit, even the men, it's an amazing way to get fit. And it's not just around the waist. It's a great way to keep supple. But anyway, don't want to advertise that now. And then the second thing I did was I wrote a book, because I've always loved writing. Writing has come to me as naturally as breathing, and I thought, you know what, I have time, I'll write a book. And then what should I write about? So it's funny how these journeys start with just an idea and then it evolves. So the book that I did write, and it took me 9 months, a bit like having a baby really, is called Leading Ladies. And it is actually stories of 32 very ordinary, relatable women who found their purpose by just following their hearts. And along the way, of course, they took some brave decisions, which you can read about in the book if you so wish. But the thing about that book was it started off with just having an interest in finding women who are willing to come forward and tell me their story, but also to shine a light on the fact that so many women just never get appreciated or valued because they are not working. You know, I had a client of mine recently tell me her story, and then she's had a long break of 8 years. She's trying to get a job, and then people say, so, you know, have you worked? And their definition of work is like if she's actually been in a job for the last 5 years. And so she's saying, no. I'm saying, but you have worked. You know, she's done loads of other things. She's brought up children. She's homeschooled her daughter. She's done some amazing things, but they do not get classed into the category of work, which I think is ludicrous. Because if these women weren't doing what they were doing, if my mother had, you know, put her career over looking after us, we would have had to pay somebody else to come and do that. So there is actually a real cost and an opportunity cost when women choose to stay at home and actually look after their families. So anyway, so the book was there to explore women's contribution to society in whatever shape or form it might be. So some of them are entrepreneurs, some are just momtrepreneurs. It's a term I don't really like, but some mums like to use that term because they're mums and they're also doing something on the side. And there's you know, women who have done something because it was close to their heart, and they're just philanthropists. So I wrote the book, and in that book I also share my story in a bit more detail than what I've just done. And in doing so, something amazing happened, is I actually made peace with myself. And I was able to connect a few dots and understand my own journey to see how I had gone from what I was to what I became, and to make sense of what I'm meant to be doing next. And that kind of led me to decide that, you know, the things I've learned, my life experience, what I learned as a fund manager about what it takes to be a successful business on a consistent basis, not just, one of those, sort of stars that just shine for a bit and then they disappear, is invaluable when it comes to individuals as well. Because at the end of the day, businesses are made of people. If you back the right people, you get a good business. Otherwise, business is just an idea waiting for somebody to come and carry it. So I thought, actually, I could put these into some kind of useful package to help individuals who really want to make an impact and be remembered. They want to discover what their potential is and how they can go and fulfill it. So now what I do is I tell stories, like I'm doing now. I listen deeply, because I'm a really good listener. And I help people to believe in themselves. Because from my own experience, I know that if my husband had not been there constantly telling me, you can do this, if my parents had not been there telling me, you can do this as long as you work hard, if my mentor, my first boss, had not believed in me, thinking she can do this, I wouldn't be here. So we all sometimes need to have somebody in our lives who believes in us, because that is critical to actually us discovering our own part of self-belief, which may have become diminished over time.